Welcome to shul.com. We are here learning the laws of Shabbat. Rabbi Yonatan Naxon, a very easy, comprehensive guide to Sephardic Halacha on Shabbat. There's also the laws of the holidays and the laws of Nidahu, Bili Neder. I hope to get into, God willing. He does a fantastic job on them. So let's take a look. Accepting Shabbat through reciting Barechu, or if most of the city has accepted Shabbat. Let's take a look. According to the Shulchan Aruch 261-4, after reciting Barechu or Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, one accepts upon himself Shabbat and can no longer perform Melacha even if it is still daytime. So
Barechu or Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat?
Either one of them. Okay. According to the Shulchan Aruch. According to the Arizal, one accepts Shabbat early through reciting the words Boi Kalla at the end of Lecha Dodi. So one of them is saying Barechu and Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. One of them is Boi Kalla. He has here a note from the Ben Ish Hai. It's proper to be stringent, like the opinion of the Arizal, especially if one had intention to accept the Shabbat through the recitation of Boi Kalla. And he also brings down the Yalkut Yosef. So you should be careful. Once you say Boi Kalla de Lecha Dodi, that is your Shabbat acceptance by default. Obviously, when Shabbat comes, Shki'ah, you don't have to accept it, but that's before. If most of the people in the city that one is residing in for Shabbat have already accepted Shabbat, then one must accept the Shabbat along with them, even if one does not want to accept Shabbat yet, and even if one is not currently in the synagogue. However, if there is more than one synagogue in the city and one has not yet accepted Shabbat, he does not yet have to accept the Shabbat along with the rest of the city, even if most of the city will be accepting Shabbat early. He has a note here on the bottom. The Hazon of Ajah points out that privately held home minyanim do not qualify as a separate synagogue, that they can exclude themselves from respecting Shabbat with the rest of the city. That happens a lot in Deal, where they have all these extra minyanim in the summer. It's all over.
But there's so many different minyanim. There's no consensus on when people accept Shabbat.
Yeah, here, I mean, because we're living in big cities. Yeah. But let's assume the guy is living in a place in Illinois or in Colorado, where there's one shul in the city, or one main shul. Then you would, if everyone accepted, then that would be the case. Even if there's only one synagogue in the city, but most of the Jews in the city do not attend on Friday night because it is not in walking distance, and one does not have to accept the Shabbat when the minyan in the synagogue accepts the Shabbat. So it's really dependent on the attendance, because if there's only one shul in town, but not everyone goes on Friday night, it's not busy. They only get 10, 15, 20 people. Then the acceptance of the Shabbat by that shul is not binding on the rest of the people. In Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Hazon Ovajah, Shabbat Volume 1, page 80, in the name of Hacham Ovajah Yosef in the Or Torah, Sivan 5755, section 107. He says, and also the Halacha B'Dura, who adds that this is judged by only the number of people who observe Shabbat, and not by the overall number of Jews in the city. So, meaning it's dependent on the actual people that are Shomrei Shabbat that you're counting. You're looking at not the majority of the people in the city, because it could be maybe the majority of the city is not observant.
I was about to say, they're not accepting anyway.
They're not accepting anyway, so then
it goes without saying.
Yeah, even if one regularly prays in a specific synagogue and is even a member there, he does not have to accept Shabbat at the time that the synagogue does, provided there are other synagogues in the city that will be accepting Shabbat at a later time. Happens a lot in Brooklyn. A lot of times the main shul that you're praying might pray early Friday, Mincha and Shabbat, but you want to pray maybe later in a different shul, but that's your main shul. So usually the way that I've seen people determine their main shul is where they go on Shabbat morning. Interesting, where they go Shabbat morning, that's usually their main shul. So, in a situation where one must accept Shabbat along with the congregation in the city due to communal acceptance, one may still pray Mincha, even though one may no longer perform Melacha. So he accepted the Shabbat, but he still has time to pray the Mincha, because the acceptance of this Shabbat was dependent on the entire community. He has a note here on the bottom. States that a boy who is in yeshiva does not have to accept Shabbat at the same time as the rest of the yeshiva. However, Other poskim, including Shulchan Shlomo and Aznid Beru in the introduction, and Ashrei Ha'ish state that a yeshiva student must accept Shabbat along with the rest of the yeshiva. So there's a mahloket. Some say Hamavaja says that, and Or Letzion state that they do not, and others state that they do. So you have the option of not accepting if you're in yeshiva. However, if once one answers to Barechu, he may no longer pray mincha. Very interesting. We're going to read that on the bottom. Therefore, if one hears a congregation reciting Barechu on Erev Shabbat, one should not answer with them. If one has already answered Barechu, he must recite the Amidah of Arvi twice in order to make up for missing mincha. So he comes to shul late. There's two notes on the bottom which we'll read, but he comes to shul late on Friday. They already said Kabbalat Shabbat, and they're saying Kaddish. If he answers with them Barechu, he can no longer say the mincha. He would have to say just Kabbalat Shabbat and go straight to Arvit and do the Amidah twice. He missed.
And how does it work? The first Amidah is Shabbat Amidah, second.
So both Shabbat Amidah.
They're both Shabbat Amidah.
They're both Shabbat Amidah. Let's read the notes on the bottom. Halacha Berurah, volume 15, page 430. Rabbi Mansur, by the way, was posek the same exact way. He stated the same exact thing. States that this is also the case if one recited Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat or Boi Kalla with the congregation. However, if one is praying alone and he recited Mizmor Shir or Boi Kalla, then he may still go back and recite Mincha. So if one's praying alone and by mistake he said Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat, or he for some reason said Kabbalat Shabbat and then wanted to pray Mincha, for whatever reason, he still could do that. Let's take a look at Hazon Avajah, Shabbat, volume 1, page 295 and 96, adds that even stipulating that one does not want to accept Shabbat through the reciting Barechu does not help, which means if he wants to have a negative kavanah, so he comes to shul, it's late, he already sees the Hazan doing the Kaddish of Shabbat Friday night, he's saying Barechu, he wants to have a negative kavanah. I am going to say Barechu, but I am specifically not Yotzeh. Doesn't work. If he says the Barechu, usually negative kavanah works. A guy can use negative kavanah, but here it doesn't work. The Leviat Chen, number 7, states that it is better if one stipulates that he does not want to accept the Shabbat and then to answer Barechu through thinking, but not enunciating the words. Okay. So he should think not to accept the Shabbat and then also think when they're saying Barechu, just mentally in his mind. Unlike the opinion of the Or Letzion, who states that a stipulation works to verbally answer to Barechu. Okay, he says that Kaf Hayim 263-97 states that if one accidentally prayed Mincha after he answered to Barechu, he does not have to pray Arvit twice. So that's a Kaf Hayim Sofed. So if that situation came up where he answered Barechu, he didn't know, he prayed, and then he went to pray regularly, he's okay, he doesn't have to pray Arvit twice. One who has accepted Shabbat early may answer to the Kedusha or Berachot of Mincha that is being recited in a different minyan.
Why wouldn't he be allowed to answer Amen?
Let's see. However, he should preferably not be counted as part of the minyan for Mincha. So that's what he's trying to get to. So he's saying that if they need him for the minyan and he already prayed, he already accepted Shabbat early, he can answer for them, but he's not counted in their count of the minyan.
But hold on, if I light the candles and I accept Shabbat at candlelight, and I go to shul and pray Mincha,
you're allowed to do that.
Do I don't count as a minyan?
No. No.
Okay,
Here.
He said he won't count as, if you accepted Shabbat, you show up to Mincha, you won't be counted.
Yeah. So I think here what he's trying to also say is the guy prayed also. He accepted Shabbat and he prayed. I think that's. We can contact the author and ask him for a correction on that. But yeah, on number here it's number 35, page 109. That's, I believe, specifically talking in the situation where he prayed Mincha already. Because if he didn't pray, you can accept Shabbat and then go to shul and pray Mincha. We already referenced that. Kabbalat Shabbat. Many communities have the custom to recite Shir HaShirim on Erev Shabbat before Kabbalat Shabbat. It can also be recited before Mincha, on condition that one does not miss the proper time of Mincha and Kabbalat Shabbat. If one has a choice to either recite Shir HaShirim or attend a Torah class, it is better to attend to the Torah class than to recite Shir Hashirim. Now,
Shir Hashirim is Torah. No?
It's tefillah.
Right, okay.
But obviously, we're talking. I mean, we're going to look at the notes of this, but we're talking about a guy. I mean, obviously, that's steadfast. Not that
it could happen easily. Imagine they start Shir Hashirim and we're learning. You have to choose.
Oh well, that if you're already in the middle of the learning, then you continue learning. But he has a whole note on your bottom, a really long one. Let's take a look. The Kafahayim Palachi 28-2 states that one should recite Shir Hashirim on Shabbat. See also Sefer Yesod, V'Shoresh HaAvodah, the Ben Ish Hai Lech Lecha, the Kafahayim Sofer, the Petach Hadevir states that the custom is to recite Shir Hashirim on Erev Shabbat because it refers to Yetziat Mitzrayim, Maaseh Bereshit, and Olam Haba, which are all mentioned as well in connection with Shabbat, which is a remembrance for Maaseh Bereshit and Yetziat Mitzrayim, as mentioned in the Kiddush, and is also called Me'en Olam Haba. Furthermore, since Shir Hashirim is considered a very holy and lofty sefer, like it says in the Gemara Kodesh Kodashim, Rabbi Akiva's opinion, it is specifically said on Erev Shabbat, which is considered a very holy time of the week, when one is freshly dressed and clean, and in one's Shabbat clothing and preparing to accept the Kiddush of Shabbat. He also mentions that it is a Segulah to recite Shir Hashirim on Erev Shabbat in order to be saved from the fires of Gehinam. See also Shivat Sion, volume 1, page 117, for more reasons of why one should recite Shir Hashirim on Erev Shabbat. One who does not have time to recite the whole Shir Hashirim can recite the 4 Pesukim that begin with the letters Yaakov. These Pesukim are brought in several Sidurim, such as the Avodat Hashem Sidur and others. The reason for reciting specifically these Pesukim is brought in the footnotes of the new edition of the Petach HaDvir, Siman 260, footnote 12. And he says here also, in the Shemesh Umagen, volume 4, 15-12, the Yalkut Yosef Shabbat, volume 1, book 2, page 464, watch this, states that the custom of Hamavadja was to say a derasha instead of Shir Hashirim. So interesting. So just so you have that custom, so I'm sure that Hamavadja said Shir Hashirim before, but in regards to the reference of the shul schedule, he zeroed in on that time in order to give Divrei Torah to people, a speech of that. Interesting. It is proper to pray Kabbalah Shabbat while it is still day. At the very least, one should recite Bo'i Kalla at the end of the Lecha before Shkia. We've mentioned this many times that a person should focus on trying to get the Shabbat in before. You can do it after Mincha if he wants to accept the Shabbat right after Mincha, because he sees that they're going to do, let's say, Shir Hashirim and the Chuner Anena after read all the Mizmor, and then they say Lecha Dodi, it might already be past Shkia, so you accept the Shabbat. You could say right after Aleinu, Bo'i Kalla, Bo'i Kalla, Bo'i Kalla, Shabbat Malketa. It is praiseworthy to recite Kabbalat Shabbat along with the minyan of people. It is customary to recite Mizmor le David Havu, which is Tehillim 29, before Lecha Dodi. That's our custom. Afterwards, one should recite Lecha Dodi, Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, and Hashem Malach Geut Lavesh. So that's in Tehillim 99 and Tehillim 93. So you have 3 Pitkei Tehillim and the Lecha Dodi. 29, 99, and 93. Interesting, he doesn't bring down here the Anna Bechowach that is sometimes said. Even Rav Musafi said that you shouldn't say Anna Bechowach on Friday night. The reason why it's in the Sidurim, according to Rav Musafi, was because there was a kavanah of the membet of the 42 letters that are found from the Rashi Tevot. There's 6 words and there's 7 lines, you want to call verses in the Ana Bechowach. So you have Ana Bechowach, that's the second set. They're all 6 words times 7, and 6 times 7, what do you have? 42. So he said that's the membet. That's one of the kavanot. If you look at, they sometimes have it that Rashi Tevot at the end of the pasuk. You'll notice that they put 3 letters and separated from another 3 letters. That's a kavanah. The reason why it's there is that you're supposed to have that kavanah, the membet otiyot, inside the Lecha Dodi. So they put it in the Sidur for people to look at it, to reference the kavanah. And then it just came along that people started saying the Ana Bechowach, like the Shami in Brooklyn, they say the Ana Bechowach. So there's been times I pray with the minyan that we say it, but according to Rabbi Musafi and according to Rabbi Naxon and according to the research he's done, it's not the custom to say it.
But is it bad to say it?
No,
it's just not a custom.
It's not the custom. Don't add. If you don't have to add, don't add. Do what you need to do with the most kavanah, the most effort, the most energy, the most simcha, before we start to add. I think there's something to that. So, and then just know that if you want to use it, learn the kavanah. Learn what the kavanah is and use it in the Lecha Dodi, and that's the more appropriate, according to the, I would call the father of the Mekubalim today, or one of the teachers of Mekubalim, Rav Musafi, who's really the forefront. Remember, his father is Ham Salman Musafi, so big Mekubal, and so he has deep roots in this. Some communities of both Sephardim and Ashkenazim begin Kalla Shabbat with several chapters in Tehillim, chapters 95 to 100, beginning with Lechu Niranina. Some communities also add the paragraph of Anna Bechowach after Mizmor de David. Let's read. He wrote it down, so let's read here. Here, in the Si Seder Hayom, Seder Kabbalat Shabbat, and Aruch HaShulchan 267-2, who brings several reasons for reciting these chapters of Tehillim. See also Shivat Zion, Volume 1, page 158. And he brings down on the Anna Bechowach, the sources for saying it are the Yafei Lalev, the Aruch HaShulchan, and Halacha Berurah, Volume 15, page 146, that there is a custom to say the Ana Bechawach, but I give you the background from Rav Musafi on it. So if a person wants to say it, he could say it, he has the opportunity, or if he doesn't want to, doesn't have to. There are times that I say it, sometimes I don't say it. It's dependent on the shul or how I feel. When Yom Kippur is on Shabbat, the regular Kabbalat Shabbat is skipped, and only Mizmor Shilem HaShabbat is recited. The Chazon of Ajan, Yamim Noraim, page 267, also Halacha Berurah, volume 15, page 152, who states that originally the custom of Cham Vaja Yosef was to recite Mizmor LeDavid, Lecha Dodi, Mizmor Shilem Shabbat, Hashem Malach, and then only afterwards recite Lecha Eli Teshukati. However, at the end of his life, he would only recite Mizmor Shilem Shabbat and Hashem Malach.
And not Lecha Dodi.
Not Lecha Dodi. Interesting.
Did he learn something as he aged?
I'm sure he did. And so now we know that the custom of Cham Vajah, when you have Yom Kippur, I remember in Brooklyn, the Syrian community, they say Lecha Dodi.
They do?
They say Lecha Dodi. So that we have that for the record. It is customary to recite the entire Kabbalat Shabbat even on Yom Tov as well as the Mizmor of the Chag. Okay, so on Yom Tov, it's a regular situation. Only Yom Kippur did Chacham Vajah do it in a unique way, and you have that option of you're really pretty much skipping out the whole Lecha Dodi there. According to the Arizal, one should recite Kabbalat Shabbat outside in a field. Some people have the custom to go out into the courtyard of the synagogue instead, but most communities do not have this custom at all and recite Kabbalat Shabbat inside the synagogue. So here's the custom of the Arizal is brought in Shara Kavanot in Yan Kabbalat Shabbat, page 64c, and the Pri-Etz Hayim Shara Shabbat, chapter 6 and chapter 8. See also the Kaf Hayim Palachi, the Kaf Hayim Sofer, Shivat Zion, the Ben Ish Hai Vayera states that if one cannot go out to the field, then he should go out to the courtyard of the synagogue instead. He should go out according to these Mekubalim. There is an inyan for it. Many times they prayed outside in the fields, and so one way that this could be done easily is by praying at early mincha. Then a person can go out and accept the Shabbat, and like we could do it here. You could do it here by the ocean, by the beach where the sun's going down. Go out to the courtyard. You want to go outside the shul here to do it. It's another option. I have done this in the past. When I was in Israel, we had a couple opportunities. When I went on a few trips in Israel, we did it. It's very special to accept the Shabbat in the fields. I can tell you from the times I've done it, it was a very nice experience. It was something different. We prayed mincha, we accepted
Why
Shabbat.
The fields? What's the inyan with the field, with the outdoors?
There's a lot of reasons brought down. We can research specifically into that. We have Tamia Min Hakim here. We can look it up. But I can tell you that it was a very nice feeling. It was accepting the Shabbat. It was still daytime. The sun was setting. We were out in the field. Everyone had some space. It was private time. You're able to accept the Shabbat. Greet the Kalla of the Shabbat. It was something nice. And I say it only because, when the Mekubalim brings something down like this, we accept the Mekubalim on all the other heebie-jeebie stuff. When they came to this, they had something. They were telling you something. You want to feel that extra spirituality? There's something to it. There is an inyan. Okay, sometimes for the masses, it's not all possible to do it. Everyone going, busy, schedule, so we have a shul set up. But there is something to it. I think so, and I know from my experience, I have felt that way. The Aruch HaShulchan in 262-5 and Halacha Berurah volume 15, page 149 brings from the Sidur Ya'abitz and the Sidur Ramak and the Sidur Hashlah HaKadosh, who state that it's even better to remain indoors with the rest of the minyan than to go outside to the courtyard and pray alone. Okay, so he brings you Aruch HaShulchan, Halacha Berurah, and a few other sources that say better to be in the shul than to go out, or to go out with the minyan, if it's possible. It's interesting. Just know to know the halacha is good. It is customary among Ashkenazim, our brothers, for the Hazan to wear a talit during Kabbalat Shabbat. Sephardim do not have this custom. Temanim, on the other hand, have the custom that everyone wears a talit during the tefillot of Friday night. I prayed in Temani shuls. It's an exciting experience, to say the least. The custom of Temanim is based in the Rambam in Shabbat 30-2, who states that one should wear talit when accepting Shabbat. It's also brought down, it was, if I'm not mistaken, in the Gemara, when it was giving the cases of the Tanaim and Amoraim who would prepare Shabbat. One of them would wear white sadinim, and like taletot, he would wear talit on it. So there is an inyan, he would wear all white, and mita'atef, and so there is an inyan brought down. The Kaf HaHaim in 18-2 mentions this custom as well. See also Halacha Berurah volume 1, page 368, and Yalkut Yosef Shabbat volume 1, book 2, page 461. Lecha Dodi. It is customary amongst most communities, both Ashkenazi and Sephardi, to recite the entire piyut of Lecha Dodi on Friday night as part of Kabbalat Shabbat. It's interesting. Let's read about this piyut, this song. This piyut was written by Rabbi Shlomo El-Kabetz, who was also a great mikubal who lived in the city of Sfat in the times of the Arizal and Rabbi Moshe Cordovero. The Ben Ish Hai in Vayera 2-5 points out that even though this piyut was never mentioned by the Arizal, and even though there is no obligation to recite this piyut as part of Kabbalat Shabbat, it has nevertheless become accepted as the custom amongst Am Yisrael to recite it. However, the line Bo'i Kalla itself indeed dates back to the times of the Gemara. So the song of Lecha Dodi is not a requirement to say. It's beautiful. It's actually really beautiful that it was accepted amongst all the communities, Sfaradim, Ashkenazim, Hasidim, maybe even Temanim. I don't know, but I'm assuming even Temanim. But the term Bo'i Kalla was already dating back from way before, from the time of the Gemara, because this was around the 1500s, the author. See also the Kaf HaHaim 270-4 states that the custom in Yeshivat Bet El, which was the Yeshivat Mikubalim, was to omit this piyut and only recite Bo'i Kalla. Amongst the Mikubalim, Yeshivat Bet El was a small yeshiva. I think they had like 14 chairs in it. It was known to be a very small yeshiva at the time when they built it. Maybe today or later on it grew, but they wouldn't say this piyut. They were from the Yeshiva of the Mikubalim. Interesting. However, Rav Ben Zion Musafi in Shivat Zion, volume 1, page 160, states that it is possible that Rav Chaim Vital and other great Mikubalim indeed did recite this piyut, and this is also mentioned by several Acharonim, including the Seder Hayom and the Seder Kabbalat Shabbat, Mishnah Berurah 261-31, the Aruch HaShulchan Igrot Moshe, and the Keter Shem Tov and others. Some communities have the custom to recite only 4 stanzas. That's the halabi. They skip out most of the halabi, beginning with the letters Shelomo, and only recite the stanza of Hit'oreri and not Hitna'ari Ma'afar Kumi. See Netivei Am, page 1%, regarding the custom in Yerushalayim, and Sefer Derech Eretz, page 50, regarding the custom of Syrian Jews. See also Halacha Berurah, volume 15, page 146, which states that this was also the custom of Chama Vajah Yosef, that he would skip certain parts of the Lecha Dodi. Over here, we do the full Lecha Dodi, and we do also the full Perakim of Tehillim before the Lecha Dodi. But the custom here of Chama Vajah was to skip some of the extra stanzas, and some of the Mekubalim didn't even say it. They just said Bo'i Kalla. So interesting to know. Throughout Kabbalat Shabbat, it is customary to stand and turn towards the west. This is permitted even if one will be putting his back towards the Sifrei Torah that are in the front of the synagogue. Okay.
I know Rabbi Dweck, Yosef Dweck.
Yes.
I know he doesn't do it.
Doesn't do what?
He's not a turnaround guy. And Boy Kalla doesn't turn around to the west.
Doesn't turn around. Let's take a look what he has some notes here on the bottom. There are different customs regarding the direction one should bow his head. The Ben Ish Chai Vayira 2-2 states that one should first bow to the right, then left, and then straight. However, others, such as the Kafa Hayim, Palachi 28-8 state that one should first bow to the left and then to the right. See also Shivat Zion, volume 1, page 160. So that's talking when they go around. Is it left first or right? Okay, so Ben Ish Chai is right, then left. Kafa Hayim Palachi is left and right. The Ben Ish Chai Vayira 2-2 states that one should recite the last Bo'i Kalla quietly. See also Halichot Olam. And then here he has the last note, Yechaveh Da'at 3-19, Yalkut Yosef, also Halacha B'Rah for reasons for doing so. So you're saying Rabbi Dweck doesn't do it? It doesn't seem here that it's...
You have to.
You don't have to say Lecha Dodi.
No, I know, but I'm saying...
Yeah, I'm saying, but like when it gets to Lecha Dodi, they give you an out that Mikubalim didn't even do it. So, when it gets to the Mizmor Shilim HaShabbat and the Hashem Malach,
that's a must.
That was a must, and the Boy Kalla was a must. But obviously, we say it. Some communities have the custom to stand from the beginning of Kabbalah Shabbat until after the paragraph of Hashem Malach Geut. So they stand up the whole time. However, some communities only have the custom to stand during Bo'i Kalla and Mizmor Shilim HaShabbat. One who is praying in a minyan that does differently than his own custom should nevertheless sit or stand along with the rest of the minyan. Well, if you go to Syrian shuls today, you see people do both. They stand, they sit. The reason for it is because we end up doing the Mizmor Shilim HaShabbat and Hashem Melech Hashem Malach Geut Lavesh again a second time. We say the Mizmor, the David Havu, Lecha Dodi. Then they say Mizmor Shir Hashem Malach Geut Lavesh. You say the Kol Yisrael, the Bamim Madikim, and then they go back to say it again. The reason for this is originally when the Syrian Jews, the Musta Arabi, were in Syria, they had one custom of when to say it. When the Sephardic Jews that came from Spain came in, they had a custom to say it in a different time. And when they both came together into the communities, there was a little bit of a mahloket. So what they ended up doing, they ended up saying, we'll say it twice. Said it before and they said it after. That's one of the reasons I saw it broke down on it. So it's interesting to know why it's saying twice, because most places, if you go in Israel, they say it once. Only the first time around, they don't say it twice. And that is the most appropriate way to do it, say it only once. When Pesach is on Shabbat, it is customary to omit Lecha Dodi. Okay, so it's Lo Adu Rosh and Lo Badu Pesach. Lo Adu Rosh means that Rosh Hashanah cannot come out on Adu 1, 4, 6 according to Shulchan Aruch, and Lo Badu Pesach cannot fall out on 2, 4, and 6 day of the week. So it can't fall out on a Friday, but you can have a Shabbat Pesach. So when you do, the customary is to omit it. That's interesting. I've never seen Lecha Dodi being omitted on Friday night. Just from being in Israel and from being in Brooklyn and in Deal and here in Miami, I haven't seen that happen. Okay, let's do the Bameh Madlikin. Bameh Madlikin. It is customary to recite Bameh Madlikin before Arvit. There are several customs regarding when Bameh Madlikin should be recited. So the first custom is before Lecha Dodi. We don't do that custom before Lecha Dodi. Immediately following Lecha Dodi, the second one that I've seen before, after Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat and Lecha Dodi, which is what the Syrians do, what many Sephardim do. After the second Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, which some communities recite after reciting Bameh Madlikin. So he says that after the second Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, when some communities recite after reciting Bameh Madlikin. Okay, he has a long note on the bottom here. Let's take a look. Even though the Sefer Hasidim 154 states that Bameh Madlikin should be recited after Arvit, the Shulchan Aruch in 270-1 states that it should be recited before Arvit. See also Chazon Abadiyah Shabbat, Volume 1, page 331 and onwards. Reason for reciting Bameh Madlikin. Why do we say it? The Yalkut Yosef in Shabbat, Volume 1, Book 3, page 35 lists many reasons for why it was established as part of the Kabbalah Shabbat. To name a few. 1. Orchot Chaim 62-A and the Kolbot 35 state this was established in order that one should not leave people who are still praying behind in the synagogue alone. This is in accordance with the opinion that Bameh Madlikin should be recited after Arvit, so that people shouldn't go. Now we know that they do the Hazara, the Hazan does a short Hazara after the Amidah, the Berkat Me'en Sheva. The reason why he does that is so that people should not walk home alone on Friday night, because they used to pray in the fields, so the Lecha, Dodi, and the Arvit. So, number 2, the Tur 270 states and explains that this is done in order to fulfill the Mishnah that mentions that one must remind those in his home on Erev Shabbat to set up an Eruv if Ma'aser was given and if the candles were lit. For this reason, the Abu Darham states that one should recite this paragraph before accepting the Shabbat, in order to remind you of the things to do. If you read it in English, you'll see that it's pertinent to all the different melachot that are needed to prepare Shabbat. 3. The Bach in 270 states that it is recited in order to remind those who are in the synagogue of the halachot of lighting candles, carrying without an eruv, not eating foods that ma'aser was not given, and the proper oils that one may use for hadakat nerot. That's an important part to teach the people. If the people don't understand Hebrew, they should read it in English so they could learn. Oh, I didn't know you had these halachot. I know this was important. Right? Oils, different types of ideas. Number 4, the Shlach HaKadosh and the Chemdat Yamim in Shabbat Kodesh, chapter 5, explain that there are Kabbalistic reasons as well. See also the Kaf Hayim 270-1. The number 5, the Siach Yitzhak in 250 explains that if one forgot to light candles, then through the recitation of the chapters of Bameh Madlikin, it can be considered as if one did so. See also the Sitz Eliezer 13-50. Obviously, that's not recommended someone to do, but if he reads it and he has the Kavanah, and for some reason or another he's ones, doesn't have candles, according to these opinions, the Siach Yitzchak and Sitz Eliezer, it's as if he lit the candle. After reciting the Mishnayot of Bameh Madlikin, the paragraph of Amar Rabbi Elazar is recited in order to recite Kaddish after an Agadaic passage. So it is brought down in the Shivat Zion, Volume 1, page 166. That's why they say sometimes Rabbi Hananya, Dibre Agada, before they say the Kaddish. It brings a Ma'ala to the Kaddish on a much higher level. So after they finish the Mishnayot of Bameh Madlikin, they say Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Hananya. The Halabi sometimes just say Rabbi Hananya. So there's two customs. After Bameh Madlikin, the custom of most communities is to recite Kaddish al Yisrael, then Mizmor Sheleim HaShabbat, and then another half Kaddish by the Hazan, followed by Barechu. When Yom Tov is either on Erev Shabbat or on Shabbat itself, Bameh Madlikin is not recited before Arvit on Friday night. This is also the case for when Chol HaMoed is on Shabbat, and also when Hanukkah is on Shabbat. That's another one. The paragraphs of Bameh Madlikin are not recited on Erev Shabbat Hanukkah. No, he added it here, the next line. Bameh Madlikin is recited even in the house of an Avel, Lo Alenu.
Why would it not?
Maybe. Sometimes if a person has a question, so the Halacha explains it. Some communities have the custom to recite Anna Bechowach before Bameh Madlikin instead of before the Dodi. I haven't seen that in any Sidurim either. I like to collect Sidurim. I have about 100 different types of Sidurim, all types, Sephardim, Ashkenazim. I like to see the different texts. So it's interesting. I've never seen that before, but I'm sure it exists. He brings down here, see also the Kafahim Palachi 28-26, who brings that it is customary to recite Ana Bechowach during Kabbalat Shabbat. That's a Kafahim Palachi who says it's customary to recite it, actually, as opposed to Rav Musafi who told you to use it for the Kavanah. He says say it. See also Yesod V'Shorosh Avodah 8-2. However, Keter Shem Tov, volume 1, page 183, states that the custom in Israel is to omit Ana Bechowach, just like Rav Musafi. They don't want to do it. And I guess the Kafahim Palachi was in Izmir, Turkey. Okay. Even a Talmid Hacham must recite Bameh Madlikin even though he could be learning other parts of the Torah in greater depth instead. Okay, so let's say during that time frame, he could do something else, he should not. Even when praying alone, one should recite Bameh Madlikin. However, if one forgot to recite it, he does not have to make it up. Alright, that ends the parts here, and then tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll go into Arvit. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen V'Amen.